So let me see how you would be your dad's favorite from now on. My head! My head! What happened to my head?
Don't worry, baby. I am not after your outer beauty. I know and see your inner beauty, so your invisible face doesn't matter to me.
On her wedding day, the groom kissed a neck that ended in nothing but air, and the village screamed. But the real horror. Her stepmother was smiling in the front row, the favorite daughter in the ancient, red earth town of Ogbomosho, where the sun bled gold across the cocoa plantations and the harmattan wind carried the whispers of ancestors. There lived a girl named Adaze Okonkwo. She was the kind of daughter that village poets wrote songs about, the kind that made other fathers sigh with envy, and their daughters burn with quiet resentment. Her father, Chief Obiora Okonkwo, was a man of substance. He owned 300 acres of cocoa, a fleet of yellow buses that plied the Lagos-Ibadan road, and a sprawling compound with 12 rooms, a generator that roared every night, and a satellite dish that brought Nollywood into every corner. But his greatest treasure was not his wealth. It was Adaze. My Adaze. He would boom at the Palm Wine Tavern, his voice carrying across the wooden benches. She has her mother's beauty skin like polished mahogany, eyes like the deep part of the river. And my brain. She solved quadratic equations at 10. At 15, she built a radio from scrap metal. Harvard? Oxford? No, my pickin' will go to both. The other men would laugh and clap, but underneath their smiles was a sharp seed of jealousy. Because Adaze was not just clever. She was kind. She carried her father's title with grace. She shared her lunch with the housegirl. She sang in the church choir so sweetly that the pastor often forgot his sermon. Her mother, Nika, had been Chief Okonkwo's first and only true love. They had met under an iroko tree at a village festival, and he had known instantly that she was the one. They built their empire together. She had managed the books while he shook hands with buyers. She had borne him 3 daughters, and though he had prayed for a son, when Adaze came the last child, born during a thunderstorm, he knew he had been given something rare. But Nika grew thin. A cough that started as a tickle became a monster. By the time the doctors at University College Hospital named it cancer of the womb, stage 4, there was nothing left to do but pray. She died on a Tuesday, as the first rain of the season began to fall. Adaze was 14 years old. Chief Okonkwo did not eat for 7 days. He did not laugh for a full year. He sat on his veranda, staring at nothing, while his cocoa rotted and his buses sat idle. The villagers whispered, "The chief has lost his mind." His brothers came from Enugu. His pastor came with holy oil. But grief is a stubborn guest. It does not leave until it is ready. After a year and 1 market cycle, the elders sat him down. "A man without a wife," they said, "is like a house without a roof. The rain will enter. The rats will enter. Marry again, Obiora. For your daughters. For yourself." And so he married Ifeoma. Ifeoma was not an evil woman. Not at first. She was pretty in a sharp, fox-like way-high cheekbones, narrow eyes that missed nothing, and a smile that arrived a little too late. She came with her own daughter, Chidinma, a sullen girl of 16 with a heavy jaw and a heavier heart. Ifeoma had been a widow. Her first husband killed in a motor accident on the Ore Road. She knew poverty. She knew hunger. And she had sworn that she would never know them again. For the first year, she played her role beautifully. She cooked Adizi's favorite egusi soup thick with ojiri and bitter leaf. She braided her hair into patterns that took 8 hours. She called her Nini, my mother, and held her hand at church. Even Chidinma tried to be friendly, though her smiles never quite reached her eyes. But Chief Okonkwo never hid his favoritism. It was like a floodlight bright, undeniable and cruel. Adi's room was painted butter yellow, with new curtains from Lagos. Chidinma's room was grey, with the same curtains the previous owner had left. Adaze got an iPhone 6 the week it came out. Chidinma got her mother's old Nokia, the one with the broken screen. When Adaze scored 320 in JAMB, the chief bought her a brand new Toyota Corolla. When Chidinma scored 180, he patted her shoulder and said, "There is dignity in trade, my daughter." Chidinma cried for 3 nights. Ifeoma did not cry. She planned. The native doctor's hut. The breaking point came on Adi's 21st birthday. Chief Okonkwo threw a party that cost more than some villagers' annual income. A live band from Lagos. A roasted cow, the whole cow, not just parts. A tent the size of a small church. And 300 guests, including the local chairman and a former governor. In front of everyone, after the cake had been cut and the champagne had sprayed, Chief Okonkwo climbed onto a chair and raised his glass. "Today," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I announce that my daughter Adaze is not just my child. She is my heir. Everything I own, the cocoa, the buses, the house in Lekki, she will manage it all. She is the eagle among sparrows, the sun among fireflies." The crowd roared. Adaze blushed and bowed her head. Chidinma dropped her plate of jollof rice. The red stew splattered on her white gown like blood. She walked out of the party without a word. Ifeoma followed her, her face a mask of polished stone. That night, as the generator hummed and Chief Okonkwo snored in his room, Ifeoma sat on her bed and stared at the crucifix on the wall. "God," she whispered, "if you are real, why do you hate my daughter? Why do you lift that girl and step on mine?" She paused. Then she laughed, a dry, cracked sound like stepping on dead leaves. "Fine. If God won't fix it, I will do it myself." The next morning, she told her husband she was going to the market in Oyo town. Instead, she drove 3 hours east, past the tarred road, past the dirt road, past the footpath that led into a forest that had no name on any map. The trees grew close together here, their branches forming a roof that blocked the sun. The air smelled of wet earth and something sweetly rotten. In the heart of that forest stood a hut made of animal bones and dried palm fronds. Skulls, monkey, goat, and things she could not name hung from the eaves. A single lantern burned inside, though it was midday. This was the home of Mama I, a native doctor so feared that even the village madman crossed the road to avoid her shadow. Mama I was ancient, her skin like crumpled leather, her eyes the color of old blood, her fingers long and knotted like tree roots. She did not greet Ifeoma. She did not offer her water. She simply looked up from the mortar where she was grinding something red and said, "I know why you are here. Sit." Ifeoma sat on a stool made of human femur. She did not flinch. "I want my stepdaughter destroyed," Ifeoma said, her voice calm and clear. "Not dead. Worse than dead. I want her to become nothing. I want people to look at her and turn away. I want her face to be forgotten. I want her to be a ghost in her own life." Mama I nodded slowly. She reached into a clay pot and pulled out a shriveled object, a dried chameleon, its eyes still open, its mouth frozen in a scream. "This is the charm of the hollow crown," she said. "It does not kill. It does not curse. It simply removes. The head is the seat of identity, the face, the name, the memory. Without it, the body walks, the heart beats, the lungs breathe. But no one will see her. No one will hear her. She will stand in a crowd and be invisible." She mixed the powder with her bare hands. Chameleon scales, grave dust from a stillborn baby, the tears of a divorced woman, a feather from a nightjar, and a single strand of Adizi's hair that Ifeoma had stolen from her hairbrush months ago. She wrapped the mixture in a black cloth knotted 9 times. "Sprinkle this on her pillow at midnight," Mama I said. "By dawn, her head will be gone. Not dead, just invisible. A bride with no face. A daughter with no name. a woman that the world will walk through like smoke. Ifeoma paid 30,000 naira, all her personal savings, and left smiling. She did not look back at the hut. She did not see the single tear that rolled down Mama I's wrinkled cheek. The old woman whispered to the empty air, "The child who is loved cannot be hidden." The invisible morning that night, as the clock struck 12, Ifeoma crept into Adiz's room. The girl lay on her back, her braids fanned across the pillow, the rise and fall of her chest peaceful as the tide. A single mosquito coil burned in the corner, sending up threads of smoke. Ifeoma stood over her, the black cloth in her hand. For a moment, just a moment, she felt a pang, a whisper of the old kindness. She remembered the first time Adiz had called her Mommy. She remembered the girl helping Chidinma with her homework, patiently explaining fractions for 2 hours. But then she remembered her daughter's tear-streaked face, the grey curtains, the broken phone. She hardened her heart. She sprinkled the powder. It glittered silver in the moonlight like crushed diamonds, like the dust from a dead star, then sank into Adiz's skin without a trace. Nothing happened. Not immediately. Ifeoma returned to her room and waited. She did not sleep. At 3:33 a.m., a wind rose from nowhere. A wind that did not bend the trees outside, but rattled the windows and lifted the curtains. Adiz sat up in bed with a gasp. She felt a strange lightness around her neck. A cold ring like a hand of ice had drawn a line just below her chin. She touched her hair, still there. Her ears still there. Her nose still there. She sighed and lay back down. Just a bad dream, she thought. But in the morning, the mirror told a different story. Adiz walked to the bathroom, rubbed the sleep from her eyes, and looked at her reflection. She screamed. From a distance, she looked normal. Her shoulders, her neck, the curve of her collarbone, the blue nightgown she loved. But where her face should have been nothing. Not a blank oval like a mannequin. Not a blur like a bad photograph. Just absence. A shimmer of something missing, like heat rising off hot asphalt, like the space between stars. She could still feel her face. She could blink, smile, frown, talk. Her lips moved. Her tongue tasted the morning bitterness on her teeth. But when she looked in the mirror, all she saw was the back of the bathroom wall, visible through where her head should have been. She ran to her father's room. "Papa, Papa, look at me." Chief Okonkwo sat up, rubbing his eyes. He looked at the door. "Adiz? Is that you? I hear your voice. But where are you? Come closer." She was standing 3 feet away. He was looking right through her. "I'm here, Papa," she shouted, waving her hands. "Right here." His eyes slid past her shoulder, searching the hallway. "My daughter, stop playing games. This is not funny." He walked past her to the bathroom, never once turning his head. Adiz ran to the kitchen. The housegirl, Ama, was frying plantains. "Ama! Ama, look at me!" Ama turned. Her eyes scanned the room, the table, the stove, the window, and then returned to her frying. "Who is speaking?" she muttered. "The spirits are noisy today." Adiz touched Ama's arm. Ama yelped and jerked away, staring at the empty air. "What is this?" she screamed. "A ghost? A wandering dead?" She grabbed a broom and swung it wildly. The broom passed through Adiz's invisible head like smoke. That was the day Adiz learned that there are fates worse than death. To be invisible is to attend your own funeral while still breathing. To call out for help and be answered with a broom. To stand in front of your father and watch him search for you. For 2 years, Adiz lived like a shadow. She stopped going to the university. The lecturers couldn't see her to call her name, and the students would trip over her bag and curse the air. She stayed in her room, eating cold food that the servants left on a tray they thought belonged to no one. She talked to herself, She sang hymns to the walls. She cried until she had no tears left. Her father grew sick with confusion. He told the doctors, "I hear my daughter's voice, but I cannot see her face." The doctors said he had complicated grief and visual hallucinations. They prescribed antidepressants. He began to believe that Adaze had run away to Lagos, or perhaps abroad. He stopped looking for her. Ifeoma played the grieving stepmother perfectly. "So sad about our Adaze," she would tell visitors, dabbing a dry eye with a handkerchief. Young people these days. No sense of responsibility. She didn't even say goodbye to her poor father. Chidinma flourished. She took Adize's car, the Corolla, now dusty in the garage. She took Adize's room, the butter-yellow walls, the Lagos curtains. She even started wearing Adize's clothes, though they hung loose on her heavier frame. No one stopped her. No one even noticed the difference, because without Adize's face, the town had slowly forgotten she existed. The boy who remembered, but there was one person who did not forget. His name was Obinna Nwosu. He was tall, dark, and built like a wrestler, with a smile that could melt a frozen heart. He and Adaze had been childhood sweethearts, the kind of love that starts with sharing pencils in primary school and ends with sharing a grave in old age. He had left for London 3 years ago to study petroleum engineering. His goodbye kiss still warm on Adize's lips. They had promised to marry upon his return. "Wait for me," he had said. "I will come back with a ring and a degree." And she had waited. But after the charm, Adaze had stopped calling. What was the point? He wouldn't see her face on the video call. He would see her shoulders, her neck, and then nothing, and she couldn't bear the confusion in his voice. So she let the calls go to voicemail. She let the WhatsApp messages gather blue ticks and no replies. She became a ghost even to the one person who had promised to love her forever. Obinna was not the kind of man to give up. He returned to Nigeria on a humid Thursday in July. His suitcase full of London Gifts cologne for her father, a handbag for her, a toy car for the son he hoped they would have. He drove straight from Murtala Mohammed Airport to the Okonkwo compound in his rented Lexus, honking the horn like the prodigal son returning for his inheritance. "Adaze!" he shouted, jumping out of the car. "Obinna is back. Where is my bride? Where is the most beautiful woman in Ogbomosho?" The compound went silent. The chickens stopped scratching. The generator coughed and died. Chief Okonkwo came out onto the veranda, looking older and smaller than Obinna remembered. His hair had gone completely white. His shoulders had curved inward. "Obinna, my son," the chief said, his voice trembling. "Adaze is gone. Disappeared. It's been 2 years now. Gone." Obinna's blood turned to ice. "Gone where? To school? To a friend's house?" The chief shook his head. "We don't know. One morning she was there. I heard her voice, and then she wasn't. The police searched. The village searched. Nothing. Some say she ran away to America. Some say she died in the bush and the animals ate her body. I don't know what to believe anymore." Obinna felt his knees buckle. He leaned against the car, breathing hard. "No," he said. "No. She would not leave without telling me. She would not." But even as the chief spoke, Obinna heard something. A soft sound from the veranda. A sniffle. Not a loud cry, a small, broken sound, like a mouse trapped in a corner. He turned. At first, he saw nothing. Just the wooden bench, the potted fern, the afternoon sun casting long shadows. But then a shimmer, a distortion in the air, like heat rising from asphalt on a harmattan afternoon. And a voice. Her voice. "Obinna," she whispered. "Please don't look. I'm not beautiful anymore. I'm not even visible. Please just go. Forget you ever knew me. He walked toward the shimmer. His hand reached out and touched skin. Warm, soft, real. His fingers traced a jawline he couldn't see. Lips that were invisible but trembling. Cheekbones that he remembered from 1,000 afternoons. "Can you see me?" she asked. "No," he said. "But I can feel you, and I remember you. I remember every curve of your face, even if my eyes can't find it now. I remember the mole above your left eyebrow. I remember the way your nose crinkles when you laugh. I remember your dimples, Ada. Both of them. I have carried your face in my heart for 3 years. A little magic cannot steal what I have stored in my soul." A daze broke down. She collapsed against his chest, invisible, but solid, real, warm. She told him everything. The stepmother, the native doctor, the midnight sprinkling, the 2 years of silence and invisibility, the way her father had walked past her 1,000 times, the broom that had swung through her head. Obina listened without interrupting. When she finished, he did not rage. He did not curse. He simply held her invisible head to his chest and said, "Listen to me, Ada. When I was in London, I read a story, a Japanese legend about a woman whose face was erased by a curse. She found a man who loved her anyway. And you know what happened? The curse broke. Because love sees what magic blinds. Because the heart has eyes that no native doctor can close." "That's just a story," she sobbed. "Then let's write our own," he said. "I am marrying you, Adeza Okonkwo. Invisible head, visible head, or no head at all. You are my wife, and no charm in this world or the next will change that." The wedding of the century. Obina announced the engagement the next morning. He did it publicly, in front of the entire village, at the Obomosho town hall. He stood on a table and shouted, "I, Obina Nwasu, am taking Adeza Okonkwo as my wife. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Everyone is invited." The town buzzed with confusion. "Obina is marrying who?" "Chief Okonkwo's invisible daughter. I beg, that boy has spent too long in London. The cold has frozen his brain. How can you marry a woman without a head? You cannot kiss air. You cannot sleep with a ghost." But Obina did not waver. He paid the bride price in cash, 50,000 naira, plus 2 cows, 4 goats, a crate of Hennessy, and a golden bracelet for Adi's invisible wrist. He did it in front of witnesses. He signed the papers at the local government office. He booked St. Michael's Catholic Church and a reception hall that held 500 people. Ifeoma was livid. She paced her room like a caged lion, biting her fingernails to the quick. "How can this be happening?" she hissed to Chidinma. "I erased her. I made her nothing. And now this boy wants to marry nothing." She went back to Mama Ai's hut, driving through the night, begging for a stronger charm. But the old woman's door was locked. Through the crack, she heard Mama Ai's voice. "You asked for invisibility. You did not ask for loneliness. Love is a different kind of magic, foolish woman. You cannot poison what refuses to die." The wedding day arrived. It was the strangest ceremony Obomosho had ever seen. And that town had seen a man marry a goat once. The bride wore a white lace gown that cost a fortune, imported from Italy, with a train that stretched 10 feet behind her. A crystal tiara sparkled on nothing. A veil of the finest French tulle floated above her neck, billowing in the gentle breeze, empty as a grave. She carried a bouquet of red roses, which appeared to hover in midair, held by invisible hands. The church was packed. People came from 3 states. Some came to mock. Some came to pray. Some came because they had heard that miracles might happen. The children cried. The aunties clutched their chests and fanned themselves with church bulletins. One old woman fainted and had to be carried out. But Obina walked down the aisle smiling. He wore a blue agbada that made him look like a king. He did not look left or right. He walked straight to the shimmer where his bride stood. took her invisible hands, and looked directly into the empty space where her face should have been. "Dearly beloved," the pastor began, sweating profusely into his white robes, "we are gathered here today to join this man and this, woman." He paused. "The bride has requested to say her own vows." Adi's voice came from the shimmer, clear and strong. "Obina Nwosu, you are the only person in this world who has ever seen me when I was invisible. You have loved me not because of my face, but because of my heart. Today, I give you my invisible head, my invisible heart, my visible everything. I love you." The congregation was dead silent. Obina raised her invisible hands to his lips and kissed them. "Adaeze Okonkwo, you are the most beautiful woman I have ever known, not because of what I see with my eyes, but because of what I feel with my soul. I will love you until the sun forgets to rise." He leaned forward and pressed his lips to the air where her mouth should have been. To the crowd, it looked like he was kissing a ghost. But Adaeze felt it, the warmth, the pressure, the love, and something strange began to happen. A light. Faint at first, like a firefly trapped in a jar. Then brighter. It filled the empty space above her neck, tracing the shape of a jaw, lips, cheeks, eyes, eyebrows. The guests screamed. The pastor fell back, knocking over the altar flowers. The choir dropped their hymn books. The light coalesced into skin brown, smooth, glowing, like polished mahogany after rain, and then, like a curtain parting, like a veil being lifted, Adize's face returned. Not just returned. It was more beautiful than before. Her eyes held the depth of galaxies. Her smile was sunrise itself. The two dimples that Obina had remembered, they were deeper, sweeter, like promises kept. The church erupted. Some praised God in tongues. Some wept with joy. Her father, Chief Okonkwo, collapsed into a pew, sobbing like a baby, crying, my daughter is back. I can see my daughter." He ran to her and held her real, visible face in his hands, kissing her forehead over and over. And Ifeoma sat in the third pew, her hands gripping the wooden bench, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. She did not clap. She did not cry. She simply stared at the girl she had tried to erase, now more visible, more radiant, more loved than ever. The stepmother's last laugh. After the church service, the reception was a storm of dancing and disbelief. The band played high-life music. The palm wine flowed like rivers. Chief Okonkwo spent 30,000 naira on fireworks. And Adaeze visible, glorious Adaeze danced with her new husband. Her head held high. Her face turned to the sun. But Ifeoma did not dance. She sat in a corner, biting her lip until it bled, watching the celebration. Her plan had failed. The invisible head had become visible again. And nowadays was not just the favorite daughter, she was a miracle. The town called her the bride who defied magic. Women traveled from 3 states just to touch her hem and ask for her blessing. That night, as the newlyweds prepared to leave for their honeymoon in Cape Town, Ifeoma made one final move. She slipped into the kitchen, where the leftover food was being packed. She pulled a small vial from her bra, the last of Mama I's poisons, a liquid the color of midnight. She poured it into a flask of palm wine that had been set aside for the couple's journey. The poison hissed briefly, then dissolved, leaving the wine golden and innocent-looking. She walked to the couple's car, holding the flask like a peace offering. Her face was soft, her eyes downcast, her voice honeyed and false. "Adaeze, my daughter," she said, "I have wronged you. I have been jealous and foolish. The sight of your beautiful face tonight has broken my heart, not with anger, but with shame. Please accept this flask of palm wine as a peace offering. Drink, and know that I am truly sorry. Let us start again." Adaze looked at the flask. She looked at Ifeoma's eyes, those sharp, fox-like eyes that had never truly loved her. And for a moment, she was tempted. Forgiveness was her nature. Her invisible years had taught her the weight of bitterness, and she did not want to carry it. But Abina stepped between them. He had seen the way Ifeoma's hand trembled not with emotion, but with anticipation. "No," he said quietly. "My wife does not drink from your hand." Ifeoma's smile cracked. "It's just palm wine, my son. Fresh from the tapper. I paid 2,000 naira for it." "Then you drink it first," Abina said. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of iron. The compound fell silent. The guests who had been packing their cars stopped and turned. The band cut their music mid-note. Chief Okonkwo stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Ifeoma's face went pale. Her hand trembled harder. The flask shook, the wine sloshing against the glass. She raised it to her lips. She opened her mouth. She paused. Her eyes darted left and right, searching for an escape that did not exist. "Drink," said Chief Okonkwo, his voice like thunder over the savannah. Ifeoma's resolve broke. She dropped the flask. It shattered on the concrete floor, and the poison hissed where it fell, eating a crater into the ground. The concrete bubbled and smoked. A small lizard that had been nearby twitched once and died. The guests gasped. Chidinma burst into tears, covering her mouth with both hands. "Mummy, no!" she screamed. "No, no." Chief Okonkwo did not beat Ifeoma. He did not shout. He simply looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years, and said, "You will leave this house tonight. You will never see my daughters again. You will never step foot in this compound. If you come within a mile of Adaze, I will call the police. And I will also call the native doctors who can send you to a darkness far deeper than the one you borrowed." Ifeoma left that night with only a plastic bag of clothes. She walked down the red dirt road alone, her shadow long in the moonlight. No one waved goodbye. No one called after her. She became the invisible one. Chidinma stayed behind, sobbing apologies, begging on her knees. "I didn't know. I swear," she cried. "She never told me about the charm. I thought Adaze had really run away. Please, please forgive me." Adaze, whose heart was still the softest thing in Ogbomosho, knelt beside her stepsister and lifted her chin. "I forgive you, Chidinma," she said. "We are sisters, and sisters do not let magic win." They are learning to be real sisters now, slowly, like two trees growing toward the same sun. The moral of the invisible head. Adaze and Abina have been married for 3 years now. They have a son, whom they named Chakudi. God exists. The boy has his mother's dimples and his father's stubborn chin. He does not know that his mother once had an invisible head, though sometimes he asks, "Mummy, why do you have so many mirrors in your room?" Adi's face is fully visible. But on very quiet nights, when the harmattan wind blows through the windows, she swears she can feel a cold ring around her neck, a ghost of the curse, a memory of absence. Then Obina kisses her forehead, and the warmth chases the memory away. As for Ifeoma, she lives in a small room in a town no one has heard of, a place called Abeji, on the edge of the forest. She grows bitter melons and talks to herself. The villagers say that sometimes, when she looks in the mirror, she sees nothing. Not because her head is invisible, but because hate has a way of erasing the hater first. Mama Ai died 6 months after the wedding. Her last words, recorded by a neighbor, were these: "The child who is loved cannot be hidden. Love is the one magic that has no counter. Tell the world." So if you ever visit Ogbomosho, look for the woman with the radiant smile, the one who runs the largest cocoa plantation in the state. That's Adaze. She will serve you palm wine and tell you this story. The story of how she became invisible, and how love gave her back her face. But don't ask to touch her head. She's shy like that. The end. If you enjoyed this tale of Nigerian magic, love, and revenge, smash that like button, share with your village people, and subscribe for more stories that will make your ancestors proud. And remember, the next time a stepmother offers you a drink, check the flask first. Or better yet, make your husband taste it. Comment below. What would you do if you woke up with an invisible head?